Every morning, as the employees of Grayson Industries arrive at their towering office building, they pass by a homeless man sitting near the entrance. His clothes were tattered, his hair unkempt, and his face bore the tired lines of hard life. He sat quietly with a small cardboard sign that simply read, "Just need a chance." Few people paid him any attention. Some would glance at him, then quickly look away, as if making eye contact would somehow make them responsible for his plight. Others openly avoided him, walking a little faster or crossing the street just to steer clear. A few, the kinder ones, would toss some spare change into his cup, but most just ignored him. Among them was Ethan Walker, the company's ruthless, sharp-suited CEO. Ethan was a self-made man. He believed that if you were struggling, it was because you didn't work hard enough. He had no patience for excuses and no sympathy for those who refused to help themselves. One Monday morning, as Ethan stepped out of his black luxury car, he noticed a homeless man looking at him. "Sir," the man said in a raspy voice, "could I have a moment of your time?" Ethan barely slowed down. "I don't have change," he muttered, brushing past him. The homeless man called after him. "I wasn't asking for money." Ethan paused, turning back with a frown. The man's tired eyes met his. "I was just wondering if you'd ever had a bad day?" Ethan scoffed. "Everyone has bad days, but I worked through mine." The man gave a small smile. "I hope you never have one like mine." Ethan shook his head and walked into the building. That was the last time he thought about the man, until everything fell apart. The next morning, Ethan's world came crashing down. His secretary burst into his office, her face pale. "Sir, we have a serious problem." The board of directors had called an emergency meeting. Investors were pulling out. Their stock prices were plummeting. "Sir," his CFO stammered, "someone bought out all of our shares overnight." Ethan's eyes widened. "Who?" No one knew. Whoever had done it had hidden their identity through multiple legal loopholes. And just like that, Ethan was no longer in control of the company he had built from the ground up. By noon, his resignation was demanded. By evening, he was locked out of his own office. By midnight, his bank accounts were frozen. His world had gone from power to nothing in a single day. For weeks, Ethan wandered the city, trying to figure out how his life had collapsed so quickly. No one would return his calls. His so-called friends had vanished. His luxury car was repossessed. His penthouse was taken by the bank. And eventually, he found himself sleeping on a park bench. The first night was the hardest. The cold seeped into his bones. His stomach growled with hunger. People walked past him as if he didn't exist. He felt something he had never felt before. One evening, as he sat outside a closed diner, shivering from hunger, he felt a gentle tap on his shoulder. He turned to see the same homeless man from outside his office, standing before him. The man held out a bag of food. "You look like you could use a meal." Ethan hesitated. He wanted to refuse. His pride screamed at him to push it away, but his stomach screamed louder. Slowly, he reached out and took the bag. "Thank you," he muttered. The man sat beside him. "Rough week?" he asked. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "Try a rough life." The man nodded knowingly. "I told you I hoped you'd never have a bad day like mine." Ethan looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. "What happened to you?" The man sighed, staring into the distance. "I used to have a company once. A big one, just like yours." Ethan frowned. "What happened?" "I trusted the wrong people," the man said simply. "I built an empire, and then one day it was taken from me." Ethan's chest tightened. It was too similar to his own story. The man turned to him. "But I learned something important." "What's that?" Ethan asked. The man smiled. "Money comes and goes. Power rises and falls. But character? That's what stays with you. And when you lose everything, your character is the only thing that can help you start over." Ethan looked down, ashamed. He had spent his whole life believing that only the strong survived. But now, he realized that it was kindness, not strength, that truly mattered. That night, as they sat on the sidewalk together, Ethan listened, really listened. For the first time in his life, The next morning, a fleet of black luxury cars pulled up in front of Ethan. A group of men in suits stepped out. "Mr. Walker," one of them said, "the new owner of Grayson Industries would like to see you." Ethan's heart pounded. They led him to a massive penthouse office. And there, sitting behind the CEO's desk, was the homeless man. Ethan's jaw dropped. The man chuckled. "Surprise?" Ethan could barely speak. "You own Grayson Industries?" The man leaned back. "I do now." Silence filled the room. "Who are you?" Ethan finally asked. The man smiled. "My name is Jonathan Grayson, the original owner of this company, the one who built it before it was stolen from me years ago." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "I spent years watching this company from the outside, waiting for the right moment to take back what was mine," Jonathan continued. "And when I saw who you were, I knew I had to teach you a lesson first." Ethan swallowed hard. "So, what happens now?" Jonathan studied him for a moment. Then, to Ethan's shock, he stood up and held out a contract. "I'm giving you a choice," he said. "You can walk away, or you can start over, with me, but this time, as a man who understands what it means to have nothing." Ethan's hands trembled as he took the contract. A second chance. One he never thought he would get. With tears in his eyes, he looked at Jonathan and whispered, "Thank you." Jonathan nodded. "Let's build something better. Together." And this time, Ethan vowed to do just that. You never know who someone truly is, or who they will become. The ones we ignore, the ones we judge, the ones we think are beneath us, may one day be the ones who hold our fate in their hands. So be kind, always,